You are standing at a crossroads. To your left is a path where everyone is smiling at you, but you are carrying 1,000 heavy stones on your back. To your right is a path where some people are looking at you with confusion, perhaps even anger, but you are walking light, free, and toward your own destination. Which one do you choose? Most of us, driven by an invisible social contract, choose the left. We choose to crush our own spirits just to keep the smiles of others intact. We have become masters of the yes that kills the soul. We live in a culture that treats disappointing others as a moral failure. From childhood, we are taught that a good person is one who meets every expectation, answers every call, and solves every problem. But there is a silent, high price for this reputation. When you are busy ensuring that no one is ever disappointed in you, you are, by definition, constantly disappointing yourself. You are sacrificing your time, your peace, and your divine purpose on the altar of other people's opinions. Let me tell you the story of Thomas. Thomas was a brilliant architect, a man whose mind was filled with grand designs. But his days were spent in a different kind of construction. He was building a life made of other people's bricks. If a cousin needed a free house plan, Thomas said yes. If a neighbor needed help moving, Thomas said yes. If a colleague asked him to cover a shift, Thomas said yes. He was the most reliable man in town, and yet his own blueprints, the buildings he dreamed of creating, sat gathering dust in a dark corner of his office. One day, Thomas visited an elderly mentor, a woman named Juliana, who was a world-renowned painter. Her studio was a place of profound silence. Thomas noticed that her gate was locked, and a small sign read, "By appointment only, no exceptions." Thomas asked her, "Juliana, don't you feel guilty? So many people want your time. Don't you worry about disappointing them?" Juliana put down her brush and looked at him with eyes that had seen decades of truth. "Thomas," she said, "imagine I have a single bottle of rare, pure water. If I give a drop to every thirsty person who knocks on my gate, the bottle will be empty by noon, and I will have saved no one. But if I guard that water, I can use it to grind my pigments and create a masterpiece that will inspire thousands for generations. To create the masterpiece, I had to disappoint the crowd at the gate." She leaned in closer. "Disappointment is a tool, not a sin. It is the boundary that protects your gift. If you don't have the courage to disappoint people, you don't have the courage to lead your own life." This was Thomas's epiphany. He realized that his niceness was actually a form of cowardice. He wasn't saying yes because he was generous. He was saying yes because he was afraid of the discomfort of someone else's disapproval. He was a prisoner of his own reputation. To reclaim your time, you must embrace the Stoic principle of the internal compass. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that we are only responsible for our own character and actions. Other people's expectations are indifference. They are outside of our control. If you act with integrity and say no because your own cup is full, their disappointment is a reflection of their own entitlement, not your lack of virtue. This requires the art of letting go. You must let go of the approval addiction. You must accept that in the story of someone else's life, you might be the villain simply because you prioritized your own sanity. And that is okay. True authenticity means being willing to be misunderstood. How do we practice this art? It starts with the strategic disappointment. You begin to choose with intention who you are willing to disappoint. You stop explaining. In the world of high-value boundaries, no is a complete sentence. When you add a long list of excuses, you are essentially asking for permission to say no. But you don't need permission to own your life. Thomas went home and began to practice. He told his cousin he couldn't do the house plans. He felt the sting of the cousin's cold reply. He felt the weight of the guilt. But instead of rushing to fix it, he sat in the zen of that discomfort. He breathed through it. He realized that the guilt was just an old habit, leaving his body. With the time he reclaimed, Thomas finally unrolled his own blueprints. He spent his evenings in a state of flow, creating the structures he was born to build. He was still good, but he was no longer compliant. He discovered that the people who truly mattered didn't leave when he said no. They adjusted. They learned to respect his time because he finally respected it himself. The art of disappointing others is actually the art of appointing yourself. It is the decision to be the CEO of your own energy. When you stop leaking your spirit into the demands of the world, you become a reservoir of power. You become a person who can actually help others, not out of a desperate need to be liked, but out of a genuine, disciplined choice. Reclaim your peace today. Lock your gate. Let the crowd wait. Your masterpiece is waiting for the water that only you can provide. And remember, those who get angry when you set a boundary are the very people who are benefiting from you having none. Their disappointment is the sound of your freedom.